Today's video looks at one of the weirdest tanks in World of Tanks console, and it is, of course, looking at the Concept 1B. And the Concept 1B is, of course, a Yo vehicle, or at least one of the first ones that will come to World of Tanks console. You're looking at the M6Y line on World of Tanks PC, and this is actually a different one. The first one that you'll see in the game. It's been in the game for a while now. It's the Tier 9 Premium / Reward vehicle that doesn't actually give you a silver bonus, I don't believe. Comparatively, it only gives you a minuscule tank XP bonus, but essentially what this thing is a very weird heavy. It features a decent top speed of 45 kilometers an hour. It has a fantastic main armament, as with all of the American heavy tanks in the game. It is very, very accurate, and it has this very weird turret armor whereby it's pretty much unpennable if you actually look at this tank when it's using its gun depression, because there is literally nowhere that you can pen. It's just so well angled that it can be a real pain, but there is a few weak points that you can pen on the side of this turret, so as soon as you kind of expose any of that, you're going to get penned. But primarily a hold down vehicle, and if you can get it hold down with the 10 degrees of gun depression and the 400 alpha that it does have with 2000 damage per minute, which isn't the best but it's not the worst, yeah, you're going to be able to do really well in this thing. And we've got two gameplays that I want to showcase for today's video, so let's jump into those. So the first replay that we do have today is on Duke Pass, and it's actually a map that I kind of really enjoy. I think there's a lot you can do on this map, especially when you have gun depression that this tank has, and the turret armor that it has, along with kind of trolley hull armor as well, that we didn't mention in that like brief period at the beginning of the video, and that is because it's very well angled, and if you do manage to hide the lower plate, it can be a little bit bouncy off of that upper plate, so it's always an additional thing that you can kind of count on every now and again, but you shouldn't rely upon it, I should say. So what does the Concept 1B actually have in the game that's different from some of the other heavies? Well, if you compare it to something like an M103, the turret armor is on a complete new level. I mean, M103 would love to have the armor that the Concept 1B is having here, but unfortunately, of course, being a tech tree vehicle and not a premium that you can purchase, yeah, it's not quite as good. But it's one of those things whereby this was a reward vehicle that you can actually pick up for free as part of the season pass. As much as a season pass is free, you know, you do have to pay the initial gold, but of course you make your gold back, so it's a one-time purchase type thing anyway. But regardless of that, the tank can basically come up against M103s and rinse them. It does have slightly worse damage per minute than the M103, which is why it gets the better armor, but it also has much better mobility in terms of being quite flexible, and of course you can see me using the turret armor here, or at least exposing a minimal amount of the tank to the opponents. Remember that this tank is also pretty slimline as well, so it's quite low profile. At least the hull armor is quite low profile, which stops you from really getting hit in ridiculous spots that you might not want to when you're playing in something like the M103. Now, you compare that to some of the German tanks such as the E75, and you can see that this tank is actually very, very fun to play, because you are both mobile and also have the alpha, not the super high alpha that the E75 has of 490, but it's more than enough to deal with most people, even if the Type 59-2 can somehow auto-aim and pen you on the move. But, you know, that's the problem with the hull armor. You can get penned, and on World of Tanks, when basically the accuracy of the game is ridiculous at this point, yeah, you're going to get penned quite a bit. But you're seeing here, I try to get a shell into the Type 59 here, of course, auto-aims rather than aiming, because why would you want to aim at someone when you could just auto-aim? But yeah, we do manage to bounce it either way. So it is somewhat reliable. You can bounce a few rounds. It seems like the Type 59 doesn't even know what day of the week it is with regards to actually looking at the scope, but of course it's working very well for him, so I'm not surprised. And of course, when you see him kind of take a little bit longer to aim, he ends up bouncing, so I guess auto-aiming this tank is the best option. I'm only joking. Please don't auto-aim in the game if you don't need to, or at least if you cannot do anything else. Now we have got the driver knocked out, which is something you'll notice in this vehicle. It is prone to the American crew knockouts that every other American heavy seems to be. He actually pens me in the turret weak point there, which is, yeah, I mean, super annoying, but you know, maybe a decent aim there. But yeah, it's the one weak point on the turret, that top little nozzle. I don't know if you can see it, but literally directly where the hit actually landed is kind of a bit of a weak point of the turret. But for the most part, if you're using gun depression, it's impossible to actually hit it since they can't actually see it. The Type 59 then just decided to come out and cover in front of everyone, so gets taken out pretty quickly. But you know, we were kind of held up there for a long time, and we still managed to do 3,500 damage, which isn't bad, and it's actually a fairly decent game, especially when you have like the damage per minute this has. You know, having 2,000 damage per minute base, it's not particularly amazing. You don't end up with like ridiculously high damage games comparatively to some of the other heavies, just purely based on the fact that the damage per minute kind of limits you in some of those games. And it can be a little bit more difficult to average a high amount of damage in your games because of that. But it doesn't mean that the tank's bad, it just means that sometimes, you know, if you're in a ruffle stomp and your team are just basically punishing the opponents, you just cannot reload quick enough to deal damage and end up with those super high results. But one thing that you can do is obviously be very mindful of where you're aiming, trying to go for the tracks. Stuff like that is going to help you out massively. You're seeing me here keeping the 75 tracked, and we do get a lot of resistance damage on top of the actual damage that we dealt in this game, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get to the Stern Tiger P, the tier 8 tank destroyer from the German line, with that massive dirt gun before he gets taken out with pretty much the rest of the team surrounding him. But yeah, a nice little gameplay, of course, in the Concept 1B, and a tank that we haven't featured on the channel since it was first released, so it's been a long time, I believe. I mean, some of you may call me out on that, but I'm pretty sure we haven't seen it since the Rambo season, which was one of the first World of Tanks action series seasons. You know, it's one of those ones from when they started doing the season passes in the game after update 6.0. So a very good tank, but let's jump into the next one. So we're jumping into the next free play, kind of halfway, well, not halfway through, but a little bit of the way through, since basically nothing's happened at the beginning of the game. We are, of course, on El Haloof, playing in once again the Concept 1B. And the whole point in showcasing this replay is that it's going to showcase what a true heavy tank player, or at least heavy tank type of vehicle that this can be when you're fighting on a corner, etc. You're seeing here the most broken medium or heavy, you know, the Centurion AVRE. Everyone knows about it at this point. It's not really a heavy at all, or not really a medium at all. It's more of a heavy, to be honest with you. But of course, you've got to be very wary of that when you have the armour that this vehicle has. It can be a massive pain in the backside. I mean, there used to go the AVRE hitting the angled motion and still doing 330 damage without aiming whatsoever and hitting the upper plate, because, you know, you shouldn't have to aim and still be able to deal a decent chunk of hit points to your opponents. Yeah, I mean, not particularly the nicest, but we do go for some tracking damage. Of course, if you can do that, that's ideal. And of course, once again, with the low DPM, you do really have to take advantage of being able to track opponents. You saw there, we actually managed to get hit by artillery just slightly before, and this tank does really poorly against artillery. I mean, pretty much every tank does, really, but the whole point is that, yeah, this tank does not have any armour from above, and I have been penned multiple times in this thing by T92s for nearly all of the health when they did have the alpha damage. Of course, they don't have as much alpha anymore, but yeah, it's not fun when you do get hit by RE, and it does happen quite often. And remember, it's American as well, so it always gets set on fire too, so it's like the combination of everything you don't want. But the whole point is that even with all of these kind of negatives, it's still a very good tank, and you can see here corner fighting just being super accurate. The accurate does help this tank tremendously, and it allows you to really like bait it out with some of these other heavies that just do not have the aim time to like realistically get you enough. And you can see here we can turn very quickly, you can remobilize yourself, you're fairly quick to accelerate, which is something that can't be said for a lot of heavies in the game. So that's a kind of positive that you can think of when you look at the Concept 1B and the Yo tanks in general, as I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with the Yos when they finally come into the game. And I suspect within the next year or so you'll probably get the Yo tanks within the game, since you know this tank's already there. They said that they were going to introduce them, and I'm assured by Wargaming that I'm pretty sure they said actually that they'd be bringing these things in within the next few years. So that was like a year ago when the Concept 1B came out. Well, the Concept 1B's been in the game for probably longer than that, actually, more than 2 years. But yeah, hopefully we'll see these things pretty soon. And of course I'm talking about the Yo Tech Tree vehicles on PC, and of course you can have a look at those if you're interested. And we'll be probably featuring them on the second channel that I've got for World of Tanks PC, exclusive World of Tanks PC content. This channel here is exclusively for the console content. I'm not going to mix and match, so you know, if you're not interested in one, then don't bother looking at the other. So yeah, hopefully that gives you good indication as to where you can go if you want to see some more PC content and stuff like that. But either way, you can see in this game we've picked up a decent amount of assist for a heavy. Because of the fact that we've been tracking people, it really does help out on your marks of excellence, and once again is a good way to kind of buff up the amount of combined damage that you're going to deal, especially if you're going for marks of excellence, which is for the most part what a lot of people will go for. But you can see here going up against the AVRE, and it's always nice when you do manage to actually high roll and take them out in the game. But with 3,615 damage on the shown, and of course 700 assistance, and just one artillery left, I guess we can zoom ahead to the end of the battle to see if we did manage to pick up the artillery, which of course we don't, because the AVRE manages to get him instead. But other than that, that is the Concept 1B. I feel like it was a bit of a weird video because we're showcasing this heavy that isn't traditionally a heavy. It's more of kind of a heavily armoured medium that has that really good turret and really good overall playstyle. And so hopefully you guys did enjoy. Of course, let me know what you think about the Concept 1B, and do you actually want to even see the Yo tanks in World of Tanks console? Let me know in the comment section down below, and join me back in some more gameplay coming soon. Goodbye.